Welcome back to our special International Women's Day episode here on Rubbin Minds, and happy International Women's Day to all the women tuning in. Now, we've seen women excel economically in the social aspects, but when it comes to politics, the statistics will surprise you, shock you, outstand you. When Nigerians decided to cast their votes in the last general elections in 2023, 4.2%. That is the representation in the Senate. We're talking three female senators. And when we move to the House of Representatives, we're saying 16. These are abysmal numbers. And as a continent in Africa, we've seen women rise to the highest office in the land. So what is happening in Nigeria? And I think the question on everybody's lips is, will Nigerians elect more women come 2027? To answer this question and the issues arising, I'm joined by a legal practitioner, Barrister Ifeoluwa Durodola Jimo. Welcome to Rubbin Minds.
Thank you so much for having me.
And you're looking very beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm also joined by a public policy advocate, Honorable Mojisola Afolayan. Welcome to Rubbin Minds.
Thank you so much.
Also looking very beautiful. I think we should have International Women's Day every day. Right? I know my producer will say, what about the men? Don't worry, we'll have special International Men's Day episode. But let's jump right into the conversation. You heard the statistics, 4.2%, 3 women, 16 women. Like, what is going on? Like, are we missing on the ballot sheet, or Nigerians are just not ready for more female representatives? I'll start with you, Barrister Ifeoluwa.
Okay. Once again, thanks for having me, and happy International Women's Day to everybody out there. I would say there are a lot of reasons for this. Like you rightly said, I think Nigeria is not ready for female leadership, although there are lots of contributory factors as well. There's the systemic, contribution to this. There are different things that could that attribute to this. We're talking about cultural issues, cultural foundations as well. Nigeria is known to be a patriarchal society, so women have been told over the years that we can be leaders. We've been told that we need to support from the back, from the sidelines. So you see in political parties, you see there are lots of women there. They do the campaign.
I mean, we have the women's leader. They go out, they wear a shoebi.
Absolutely.
I'll come back to you. Honorable Mojisola, do you agree that it's more culture that is holding women back, or do you think it's deeper than that?
All right, so I thank you. Happy International Women's Day, everyone, and to every woman out there striving to live better lives. I see you, we hear you, and we uphold you. So for the women in politics, I think it's beyond cultural. There are also systemic barriers, because the entry into even to political parties is also, the process is a bit screwed. It's not clear, it's not linear. We also have challenges when it comes to campaigns. Even for you to even become an aspirant, then become a candidate, many times people say, what is even the process? And that is where, civil societies, media, everybody has a role to play. That's how I see it. Everybody has a role to play. We all have our roles to play. When it comes to funding as well, funding is a very crucial aspect of even politics, generally all around the world. And we need more women who are financially capable to be able to say, I can do this. We also need mentoring. We need leadership development programs where women can feel included, they can feel understood, especially when it's being led by women as well, women who have already gone ahead. So the few 4% can come as guest lecturers to tell us how the experience was and how you can go about it.
I'll come back to you on that mentorship, because it reminds me of today's theme, which is give to gain, and how much women can give, whether it's being a godmotherism, or if it's mentorship or it's sponsorship. But I want us to take things from the legal angle. Do you think the laws, the policies are favorable to women participating in politics? When you look at the provisions, even from a party standpoint, do you think parties need to legislate within themselves, or all come together and say, look, we must do 50%? Like when there's a man, there should be a woman. Does it need to come to that?
Absolutely. In fact, as a matter of fact, I think Nigeria needs urgent legal reforms in this aspect, because countries that have thrived in increasing the female participation in politics, they've had to include quotas, you know. So I would suggest that Nigeria treats this as a matter of urgency, to say we need quotas in place, to say we need this number of women, and I'm sure they would find them. But because there's no legislation or legal reform that that mandates this, it's difficult for us to say, okay, no, it's not a balanced, you know, number out there.
So we have to force the hand of the law
Absolutely.
to get the representation we want. Now, Honorable Mojisola, you participated in the last elections as a deputy governorship candidate here in Lagos State. Now, the question is, between then and now, have women given to you? Have they mentored you? The women who are there, have they sponsored you? Like, what kind of help have you received? And will you be casting your die into the ring come 2027?
Okay, so this is how I'm going to be answering your questions from where you ended from, to say beyond 2027, I see we should be prepared for 2031 and 2035. This gives us a long-term plan, because it's not just a one-size-fits-all process. So as women, we must have a long-term game to say, how are we going to involve more women? How are we going to increase party membership? How are we going to understand party structure? How are we going to understand party systems? Because there are different barriers even in the ecosystem of this thing called politics. So also, like I mentioned, finance is also key. So women must embrace participation. We must move beyond talking about it. Like I always say, if you are not at the table, you're on the menu. Unfortunately, we have more women on the menu. I actually wrote a book, A Seat at the Table, discussing my experience during this. And I believe that as children of God, we are light and we should be at the decision-making table. For any reason, you should be there, because, you know, especially as women who have succeeded in education, in healthcare, in economics, social entrepreneurship. We do this, we always give back. We are multipliers, we are nurturers. So if we are not in politics, then there's a large gap. We need to. And the question is not whether women have leadership or we have the capacity to lead. The question is, when is the political system ready to embrace the women who demonstrate leadership daily?
When is the political system ready to embrace? I know when it comes to power dynamics, power is rarely given, it's taken. So I'll move to you, and I'm going to pose the same question to you, but in a different way. In terms of the 4.2% we have when we look at the House of Rep and the Senate, are you impressed with the kind of bills that have been sponsored, the kind of moves that have been made by the females who are currently in power to ensure that maybe 4.2% becomes 42%?
Not really, I must say. However, I'm not going to leave it to them only. You know, I believe it's beyond them. I believe it goes beyond just those people. Like she rightly said, there needs to be mentorship, but the mentorship is not just the women in power only. I think the society at large needs to take this seriously and probably have training institutes or mentorship programs that are for women who want to go into politics. They know how to do it, because you can't leave it just to these power players only, if I say.
Okay. I would like you to weigh in on what can be done now. I know you mentioned, okay, the long game, but we're maybe just 10 months to an election. What can be done to ensure Nigerians vote for women?
So what can be done now is for people to join a party, regardless of the party. You must be in that party. You can't really make any control or tangible contribution from outside. First of all, we need to understand that representation enhances democracy, and representation also enhances governance. So we need to be a part of it. We need to be in the party. We need to start seeing how are things done What does it take to be this? What does it mean to go for Congress? What does Congress even mean? What is it all about? What does primary mean? You need to know those things, and you can't know it even if you are being taught in a master class. You will understand it better when you are in the system. So now there are a lot of parties saying, come and join a party. Go ahead and register to join a party. Understand party structure. Understand what it means by voting. Because if you don't even understand primaries, you don't understand Congress, because many of us just sit on we can sit in our houses and start criticizing government.
But if we don't have the knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power.
I want to come back to women, because, I mean, it's Women's Day and we say women supporting women. But we've seen cases where that hasn't played out, like when we saw what happened to Senator Natasha Akpoti, and we saw Senator Kingibe not supporting her. I mean, that was a very glaring case of women not supporting women. In those instances, should the gender rise above, you know, political commitments or beliefs? I mean, when there's an opportunity to increase the number, instead what we're seeing is a possible decline. I'll start with you.
So if I get your question correctly, you're talking about women supporting women in a nutshell.
Yes, and using that specific example. in power, because, I mean, the numbers are so small. So you'd just imagine that whatever needs to be done, we'll sort out our issues, but as a woman, I'll support you.
So the thing with women, I won't say women don't support women. I'm going to, you know, put that out there. But I think women support who they want to support out of blind loyalty. You know, oftentimes, I know women are loyal beings, even if I may say so. So when they belong to a party or they have a strong belief, they just follow suit and support blindly. I'm not one to say, just because you're a woman, if I feel you're not doing what is right, I'll call you out. So I'm not going to give you a blind support. So asking why people were not supporting Natasha, or why women, so to speak, were not in support, it still boils down to the fact that they probably belong to other political parties or have other beliefs, and they felt they needed to, you know, support their beliefs.
I mean, it was interesting to see a lot of women coming out to protest against Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. And, I mean, those people don't necessarily, they're not in the Senate with her. These are like market women, everyday women, coming out in their numbers to support the Senate president. I'd like you to weigh in on that.
So just as you rightly said, there are many parties to this. But what I would say is, do women support women? Absolutely. But beyond supporting women is to, first of all, let's know that women are going to support fairness, capacity, and competence. That's also very important. And also, you need to remember that there are party structures, regional dynamics. So beyond just saying, oh, she's a woman, I'm a woman, there are certain circumstances around every situation. So we need to put that into consideration.
I'd like to go back to your answer about capacity, because, I mean, between all of us, we can collectively agree that the current leadership leaves a lot to be desired, and it's male-dominated. So does it mean that all the men who got there on capacity and fairness? So are we saying that there are not enough women who are capable, who are competent, fair and competent?
Can I chip in something? Okay. You know, back to what we're talking about, a lot of women don't even know that the patriarchal system of Nigeria has affected their thinking. That is one thing you must keep in mind. We have a belief. You think that belief is it. This is it. Not knowing that the society in which you've grown in has formed a part of your thinking. It has formed a part of your mental, what you believe to be true. So most women have been told, you can't be a leader. So they are fighting to say, no, I would support from the back, because that is what we've been told to believe in. So these women that you see that are probably not in support of who they should be in support of.
But they've collected tomato, pepper, and money.
Sometimes it goes beyond that.
We say that when they are financially stable themselves,
then they would come out.
They will be able to even have a voice, because, and that's also part of what you asked, that what are the solutions? So civil societies and media as well have a role to play. First of all, the party is to also use the opportunity to identify capable women as leaders. So like you mentioned, capacity. Capacity is essential.
But the men that don't have capacity and are in politics,
no,
the women are saying...
We have a lot of women who are successful across boards, like I mentioned, and you also mentioned, in healthcare, education, everywhere. But they are not in politics, because people have told us politics is dirty. But the truth is, as and that is also a place of identity. You need to know who you are, and to know that if I'm not there, who should they be talking to if not me? I am light, and I'm going to be light in the darkness. So for me, my first advocacy is for every woman to join a party. That's where I always start from. And if I meet you, you say, Moji, what's going on? Beyond talking in your bedroom is to say, join a party. It doesn't even matter what party. Learn the structure. Let's start to harmonize. Let's start to strategize. It's beyond talking. It's about action. It's about
joining a party so that you even have the chance to vote, because
you have a side,
to make it.
You also need, because we said there are no women at the decision-making table. It's beyond the people who were even elected into office, because before you even can go for primaries, it means you are already in the system. You know that there needs to be some things before election. Everybody is just discussing, election.
But there's so much that needs to be done.
And it has to be. That's why I'm also saying beyond 2027, because there are some things that are not, if it doesn't happen between now and maybe a few weeks, 2027 is already out of place. So you can't just go and pick a ticket, except you're going to a party that doesn't have structure. And if you're going to a party that doesn't have structure, it's almost like
but you see, these same parties, you know, because there's International Women's Month, there's a lot of pressure on them. They start to make all these promises. Or when I get into power, I'll give 33%, I'll give 2%, I'll give 10%. And it almost comes off across as tokenism. Like, let's just put one woman there so that, you know, I'll do a deputy. Why is it deputy? Why is it not the governorship candidate?
But the tickets are there. Women can pick up the tickets.
Do you think it's that simple that women are not picking up the tickets? Because a woman might do a good run in the primaries, win her primaries. Next thing they say, step down for the male candidate.
And
I will give you commissioner.
And that goes to the structural issues that I was talking about, because it has gone on for years. You know, women have been told you can't do it, or even if you are, somebody must be supporting you, or you must be assisting someone, or you belong in the other room, as they would say. So it goes beyond that. It talks to our structure and our beliefs, our belief system.
For you who has experienced the party structure, do you feel that Nigerian parties are still playing the politics of tokenism, or are really serious about letting women have a fair chance, that when they win, they allow them to compete, not that you step down, we'll give you, you know, commissioner, we'll give you SC?
What I know for sure is that many parties now are accepting women. They even give concession. Some forms are even given to women for free when your male counterparts are buying those forms. I am also aware there are certain situations where they say at least 20% of a certain,
Is 20% enough? I mean, we represent more than 50% of the population.
We need to demand for more, and that's what I'm saying. You can't demand from outside. You can't demand saying, oh, we're going to march to the Aso Rock or to Gambi. We won't do that on the streets. There's a game, there are rules to this game, and the first thing is you must be right there in the party. Then you must be seen and you must be heard, and that's also where media comes in. Civil societies like WILAN, like WIMBIs, advocating for more women representation, because indeed there are a lot of women who have this capacity, who are competent, who have, you know, the belief and, you know, even the interest in saying we can do this.
Any final words?
That's a strong point you touched, and I wanted to emphasize on it. For so long, the media has portrayed women in some, you know, despicable ways that they need to do better. So one of the structures we're talking about is what the media is also putting out there. So I'm saying this live on TV, that the media has a lot to do in this regard as well. They need to portray the women as being capable of being leaders.
And I'm proud to say that, I mean, today's episode we've heard from women across different walks. And on Rubbin Minds, we always try to ensure we have women as part of the conversation. So I don't know about the other media, but I think we're doing a good job here.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Barrister Ifelua, Durodola Juma, and Honorable Mojisola Afolayan. All the best, and once again, happy International Women's Day.
Thank you so much.
Really